think it works. Hello there. I have a question to you, please. Is there anyone who can actually work with or has experience with DSLR cameras for taking a few pictures? Anyone? Yeah. You have some? Zebran? Yeah, okay, it's good, thank you. Now you're in charge.
Ik heb die niet, nee. Nee, staat in Teams. Laurent, are you ready? All right, if everyone's ready, then no. Oh, yeah. Yeah, okay. So if everyone's ready, then I would welcome you to the final of the 2021 Business Pressure Cooker Case Competition, where we will have 4 finalists today who will try and present their best for this big auditorium, which is exciting both for them as well as us, because it's the first real physical day of the BPC. Keep this vibe open. Before everyone enters the room, please give a loud applause, and also when they finish, please welcome them with a loud applause. Further on, please try to avoid any mobile devices. Try to really be focused for the team that is presenting, because if you were here, then it would also be very pleasant to see people being interested in what you have to say. Without further ado, let's first welcome the first finalist, Ace Solutions.
Test. Yeah, working.
Standard introduction from the timekeeper, and then I will bring it to you.
We will also get everyone, but I need you next to me. I need you next to me.
Who's going to do the slides?
You?
Yeah, me, but then I can do the slides as well.
No, but you can stand there, that's fine. I just need go next to me.
Test.
supposedly. Okay.
Oh, maybe it turns automatically off if there's no sound. What you do? Oh, it's on. Test.
Cool. I get it, but let's see. So I think you should go first, and I was just thinking after you, but I was mentioning that it's
Who's intro? Your intro, right? Yeah. What goes from there to? Yeah, sure.
modellen.
Yeah, but it's like let's
Ja.
sing.
Easy pressing.
English person standing here not getting a thing that fast.
Oh, he has a clicker. He uses the clicker.
No, he used to do it, but it doesn't work. Now, what's our presentation? Oh, I did that, okay. Welcome to the final. Congratulations for making it into the finals. The team presenting is ACE Solutions. I'm Nicoletta Koos and I'll be the official timekeeper for today's match. There will be 10 minutes for the presentations, 10 minutes for the Q&A, as you know. And I will be signaling with these signs when 5, 3, and 1 minute are left. I invite the judges now to introduce themselves. And
Please give a sign if you've seen the message. So you
want it first?
Jules?
I think I'm good with one.
So,
Guten Nachmittag and good afternoon. We are ACE Solutions and we're here today to talk with you about the future of Volocopter. We want to start with a quote. If you want to fly, give up everything that weighs you down. And this is basically what we are advising you to do. So keep that one in mind while we elaborate a bit more on what this entails.
Yes, thank you, Jules. So to give you a sneak preview of what you can expect the next 10 minutes, I'd like to guide you through the executive summary. Starting off with the goals we've defined. You can see at the top row, the first year goal is really to go from, in 2022, to a commercialized taxi flight. Then the long-term goal is really to expand on this and to remove sort of the infrastructure that's required at the moment. Well, from this goal we can formulate one question, which is how can Volocopter expand globally while overcoming physical, digital and social barriers? Now, what is the answer to this question? Well, we have a two-sided answer to this. The first year answer is really dissolve these bottlenecks that are causing the gap between the current and the desired state. And then later on we'd like to expand and really go into new markets with this marketing approach. Now, what will be the desired impact and the expected impact of this? As of 2022 to 2023, we expect an 18% revenue increase, which will only increase afterwards. Next slide. So, how did we get here? Well, we started analyzing the current state. Now, we know Volocopter is a beautiful company. We think it truly is the future. We know that also based on like the crowdfunding results, massive results, we see that there's a record been broken. Now, we see that there's high demand. We see the main problem that we encounter really is that there's not really a solid road to market. Now, we go into the key issues which are causing Volocopter not to get from the current state to the desired state. So what are these key issues? They're mainly built up of three main parts. Really starting with the physical key main issues regarding capacity, infrastructure, and power supply. Next up, we have digital key issues. Digital key issues are regarding 5G reliability and regulations. And then we have the last key issue, which is really a social key issue, which will be solved throughout the marketing plan. And this is really about the confidence and the awareness that's with the consumer at the moment. Now, to get to this desired state, our solution offers the solution to these key issues. And this desired state is really just the goal we defined at the beginning. Now, how do we plan this future to really take off, Leo?
yes, thank you, Bo. Let's continue to the next slide. After a careful analysis, Bo, we came to an important conclusion. Volocopter is ready to take the next step. But how large is this step going to be, and where exactly do we plan to take this next step? Through a SFA matrix, we have identified a best option and the most effective scaling of our expansion in the future for 2022. These were all considered through worldwide brand awareness, stability from the pilot program, possibility with available resources, quality of the implementation, and the regulation and legislation issues. But first, let us take a step back. Bo just identified that the Volocopter has many potentials to reach these super cities. But before this Volocopter can reach these super cities, it ran into a bottleneck. Now, what does this bottleneck exactly consist of? Let me take you through these very bottlenecks. The first bottleneck is about physical So this is about the power supply of our very vehicles. The second bottleneck is about the digital, so front end and back end, which entails front end. Our customer needs to have an application where he can hail the taxi, and back end that we have a system that actually manages these very taxis. Lastly, we want to talk about the legislation and regulation, which speaks for themselves. Firstly, we want to take a look at the first two bottlenecks. And we think that the best solution to these very bottlenecks is scaling these from the pilots. Volocopter has been doing groundbreaking pilots in the past, and yet has acquired a lot of data and valuable information on how to expand in the future, and thus increasing their power supply and their scalability of their IT projects. Secondly, we want to talk about the legislation. So, what are the legislation issues? We identified that legislation is a very important part for Volocopter. And that is because it's holding it back in the form that they do not have a lot of impact on it. They need to collaborate with government, they have to establish rules. To solve this, we recommend Volocopter to hire a legal counsel. This legal counsel will employ itself over the legal restrictions Volocopter runs into. After all of these bottlenecks would magically be disappeared, we want our Volocopter on our left-hand side to move to our very much cities without any bottlenecks. Alright, let's quickly recap. We want Volocopter to expand to 5 cities, 5 world cities spread all across the globe. These cities are Los Angeles, Washington, London, Singapore, and Hong Kong. Alright, but what are we going to do exactly in these various cities? The first thing we're going to do is scaling the very infrastructure according to the pilot requirements. We identified the information, and now we're going to scale that accordingly. Secondly, we already developed a pilot application, and we wish to expand this. Furthermore, develop the taxi management system, and hiring a legal counsel. Before we move on, we clearly identified the theoretical bottlenecks which will be identified for Volocopter. But a very prominent change still needs to be made. The customer, once the Volocopter is available to him, still needs to be convinced on using this very product. Please listen to my colleague, Jos, who will tell you more about creating brand trust and increasing the motives for our customers to use the Volocopter.
So let's talk about marketing. Our goal with marketing, as already said, is we really want to build the confidence of our consumers and spread awareness of our products. So the strategy we choose is the image campaign. Within this image campaign, we will be featuring influential and also normal people while they are traveling in the vehicle. And this content will be played on different social media channels. So, for example, with different variations. For Instagram and Facebook, we want to have more of an emotional approach. For YouTube, really sharing this experience as an experience report to really make it able to see what is happening throughout this ride. And LinkedIn to really be focused on the benefits. So, and why will this work? This will work because people live vicariously through this experience. And therefore, their confidence in this vehicle will be boosted, and we will increase brand awareness altogether. So we are really ready to take off for the future.
Okay, now the broad overview of the timeline. It starts in 2021 and ends in 2025, so a time span of 5 years. In the first year, the preparation phase, we recommend the Volocopters to prepare for the launch, and thereby fixing the bottlenecks that it currently is experiencing and the marketing strategy. In the second year, so the launch itself, this is the starting phase, we recommend Volocopter to enter 5 megacities. In the third year, the technology enhancement phase, we advise the company to build a digital infrastructure which gives them an edge over the competition, since it will be built for users and the company itself. In the fourth year, we advise them to go to the expansion phase and thereby expand to 5 new cities.
In the 5th year, this also falls under the expansion phase, but we challenge them to enter 10 new cities and thereby follow the philosophy of Mr. Reuter to think big. And for a more detailed overview of the timeline, we would like to refer to the appendix.
Thank you, Kenneth. So with respect to the fast-growing air mobility market, we anticipate your revenue to grow proportionally. However, the impact for economic growth and business activities depend on the impact of COVID. Lockdowns in Asia have resulted in losses for many startups within this market. Therefore, we anticipate that this impact will last for at least 3 more years, as you can see right here. However, for 2023, we anticipate that you will experience your first positive outcomes related to the strategy presented. From 2023, we anticipate that you will increase revenue with 18% and that your negative net income will decrease with 4%. This year will be the year where you start to set off the ground and actually start to benefit from the strategy that we present you. This strategy enables you to give everything up that weighs you down. It is now the time to get off the ground and actually let the future take flight. Thank you very much. Cool? Yeah.
Can we ask questions? Right. I give the word to Maaike for the first question.
Thank you very much, first of all, for this presentation. Can you, because I think you mentioned that as well, can you take me to the appendix when it comes to the timing of your implementation plan?
We actually made a Gantt chart with the activities per field, and as you can see, it starts in 2021 and ends in 2025.
Yeah, because I'm can you maybe elaborate on why you chose this particular time frame? So, because I see hiring legal counsel, which is okay, hired, and then, because I'm a bit concerned about that you first want to tackle operations, why you're not even sure if you can go up in the air in those 5 different cities also with different legal consequences.
Okay, maybe Leo wants to elaborate about this.
Yeah, so our initial plan on investing is first to grow the brand awareness. So our first thing would not be to really target profit. What we go for, where you relate to as the operations, would be insecure. We think that these will be different. We think that these can be resolved within the next year, and thus we can proceed to continue with our activities.
Yeah, so you first want to focus on brand awareness, but what about if you're not able to fly? If they're saying, that's very nice, I don't want that thing in my city, legally.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's a very straight question, we need to think about that. But the really important thing is that there are cities in line for our services. This services releases congestion, alternates a new way of transportation, promotes tourism. So we see very little reason for a city like London, like Las Vegas, etc., to decline. And if that were the case, there are plenty of other cities across the globe which target this very spectrum as well.
Guus?
Yeah, I have a question regarding this legal counsel. It seems like it's a keystone of your whole plan because it enables or disables whether you can move towards a municipality or not. Can you tell me about what's his profile? What does he do in the negotiations with the municipality?
All right. So the main task about the legal counsel It's about speeding up the process. Volocopter is currently working on these legislations, and regulation is very much trying to get these around. But currently the main bottleneck for Volocopter to actually take off to the sky. So what we want him to employ himself over is to chase down these governments, be straight on their tail.
How do you feel a municipality being chased down and speeding up the process while we're trying to bring in a new way of public transportation that is totally new and people don't feel comfortable with? How do you think a major will react if we want to push this through?
Yeah, well, maybe it's maybe. My colleague Kenneth will answer that question.
Well, something is that the cities also requested this, so of course it's a big challenge also for them, but the fact that they requested it means that they are willing to work on it. And I think that if you show your enthusiasm by sending a council there, that you show that you want to speed up things and make things realistic.
Okay.
So I think it's a bit of also a mindset and the way you come to the table to the municipality.
One more question regarding these legal councils. You've stated that we want to tackle 5 cities at a time to start this project, mainly because of the reason for direct global appearance. We are a small company with only a few people. Going to 5 countries means 5 different regulations, 5 different social, cultural cities. It means 5 times the work. I'm not sure if we can handle that, but could you give me, apart from direct global presence, another reason why we should do this? To go to 5 cities at one time.
All right. So I think an important resource we took into consideration is money. We have a lot of money and we have a lot of stakeholders who are interested in financing our very cause. So money should not be an issue. And I very much agree that covering 5 cities across different nations, offering 3 different languages in 4 different countries, is definitely a huge job for at least the coming year. But we expect, with the money resources they currently have, that Volocopter is very much able, and if it's not able, it could hire additional forces to do so. So we expect this to be realistic and reasonable.
So you're a first mover at this moment, but what if you have competition? Do you have a winning plan to win the race in the air?
Yeah. I think there's 2 different parts to that. The first part is about the whole market. So how is the flight market going to compete to the likes of a taxi, the likes of an Uber, the likes of the metro? And in that we specialize through speed. We are very convenient, we are fast, we don't have much congestion yet, and it's not likely to come soon in the future.
I'm sorry, I don't mean, you have competition because of other means of transport. I mean competition within the same sub-segment. Other companies doing exactly the same thing as you do with air taxis.
Yeah, so currently we're market leader. And our goal should very much always be to remain so. We are first mover, but as far as we know, we do not have a patent or anything on our very idea. So it's very likely that eventually, once legislation comes around, that these will come. But we suggest, and we think that's a very, very, very good solution to offer exclusive partnership with certain cities. Include in your contract with, example, Los Angeles, okay, we collaborate with you and only with you. Something in the likes of that, you can exclude some competition or create a division which markets are yours and which are your competitors. And that way you can ensure your own success and market growth possibilities in the future. Does that answer your question? Okay, thank you.
Well, we talked about a lot about the legal aspects, but with marketing, I only heard online presence or brand awareness creating through online elements. This is something that is not quite familiar for people. You also mentioned the bottlenecks of social, having social reluctance going up in the air in that sense. How can online, because I find this very intriguing, how you can establish that only through online experience. What about the offline marketing?
So we want to start with online because for us really the beginning is we want to tell them, okay, what is this about? This is something really new. Customers don't know that. Normally I take an Uber, I take a bus. So how do I get to know that? If I have like just a plain picture of it somewhere on the street, I'm still a bit hesitant to do something like that. That's why we decided to go with the digital side, because there we have moving pictures, we have videos, we can really elaborate on that, show the feelings, what they are feeling, and we can also target in a way, because we're going to 5 different cities. Of course, we want to be in those cities, because if we're going to say something different, they don't really want to buy it, because it's not there, the product. And since we have those individual people and influential people and normal people in there, we also have the possibility to target through their audiences already who you're capturing. That's why we thought in the beginning that digital will really be the best way to go, to really give them the experience and to really show them what this is all about. And of course we can elaborate in a longer way to see maybe we should do more in terms of marketing.
Because I find it interesting that you mentioned the experience. Well, when I see something online, it's a completely different experience than when you actually see it. It is pretty safe, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to get in one. So that's the... But thank you for your answer, though. Yep. That's it.
Okay, let's do that later. Hello? Do they need to leave?
We'll get to you. You will get the stream. You will get the stream so you can watch the presentation. Same thing. Yeah.
If we have space, we can sit.
You can sit down.
Shouldn't be.
So now comes the next, straight away. Or do you need some time? No? Okay. So welcome the next team presenting Team Compass Consulting.
Give it up for Compass Consulting. We had some technical issues on the previous team. That's why we had a small delay. We think that the issue is in the cable of where you what you put in. So be a little bit cautious with both putting it in and also navigating.
Okay, while you set it up, allow me to welcome you to the final. I am Nicoletta Korsch. I'll be your official timekeeper for today. And you'll get 10 minutes to present, 10 minutes for the Q&A. I will signal when there are 5, 3, and 1 minutes left with these signs. So make sure you signal back that you've seen it. Now I'd like to give the word to the jury so that they can introduce themselves as well. And after that, I'll start the time when you're ready. If you need it. Is it? Okay.
Oh, and I'm Gus. Did you know me? Please. Maybe it's good if we only introduce Kevin as a former case competitor. He was here willing to help us today out. All the other ones we already know. But thank you, Kevin. And you can start whenever you're ready.
Since ancient times, humanity has been seeing up the sky, looking for new limits. And finally, mobility is finding these new limits. And us, Compass Consultancy, alongside with you, we would be ready for takeoff. But first, some changes have to be done still in the ground. So, alongside with you, we want to find a transformation for a transportation system in a sustainable way, focusing on a safe, reliable, and a legal way.
Yes, thank you, Jose. What is very important to take in consideration, of course, is that this is a very new market. There has nothing been in this kind of transportation system. So that means that there are a lot of risks, and we have to take them in consideration with our solution. So what is our solution actually about? We are ready, set, and go. This is a short-term solution with the helicopters, the volocopters, but still with a pilot. We analyzed that it would be the best idea to implement the helicopters in 2 major cities, one in Germany and one in China, Singapore. The upper one is Frankfurt in Germany, and the lower one is in Singapore. And the hotspot you see there is the places where the helicopter can actually land and go to. So we have several drop zones for the helicopters. Why did we choose these 2 cities actually? Well, we thought it through, we analyzed, and we could have chosen one city, but that would mean that the risks are a little bit higher, because when one city doesn't work, you don't have a proper backup, and this is the reason why we chose both cities. We also chose them because both the cities are very wealthy, and there are a lot of people in there, so that means that we can gain a lot of customers. Yes, what else do we want to do? In these cities, we want to place a certain infrastructure on hot zones and place some drop zones there for the helicopter to actually land. And of course, we want to make an application for the customers, like Felix, I think you all know that, where you can hire such a helicopter and let it take you from A to B. And of course, the cost will be based on MAU.
Thank you, Jeroen. Once we're done with the initial kickoff phase, we want to go sky high. And what we want to do in the long term is really focus towards the app on autonomous vehicles. And therefore, we want to create different drop zones in different cities. And of course, while you want to select those different cities, you have to think about different KPIs as well. Those KPIs can consist out of, for instance, population density in a certain city, urban development, and so on. Furthermore, we want to attract new customers via marketing channels, and Mahisa will elaborate further upon that later on today. Furthermore, we want to produce more efficient and increased value proposition by the lowering battery cost over time. BGG analysis shows that the prices from 2018 to 2030 will lower with 5% annually, and also the lower cost per mile.
Yes, and then we go into our implementation plan, starting with strategy. So if you go to the strategy, we see that the pyramid model we've used, these consist out of multiple blocks, starting at the top with short term, then middle term, then long term. So first, at the top of the pyramid, volocopter should start with, in Frankfurt and Singapore, with 5 to 10 volocopters per city. After that, they should move to penetrate the existing countries and surrounding areas. So, for instance, Hong Kong, based on the KPIs Niels mentioned before. Hong Kong and from Frankfurt to Berlin. After that, on the longer term, volocopters should penetrate surrounding countries in the same area, so mostly in Europe and Asia, that are culturally and geographically similar to the countries they already serve. And then on the very long term, they should think about expanding to the USA, because there are a lot of mega cities there with high incomes, and make regional headquarters for each continent.
Yes, for the marketing department, we advise you to do several things. First, we advise you to target 2 customer segments. First, recreational clients, and these will be mainly people between 18 and 25. And we advise you to approach them via social media. And the second customer segment are mainly focused on business trips, so people who has to go from, for example, Singapore from east to west very quickly. We advise you to get in contact with the local companies there and approach them to offer transportation for their employees. The USPs in the marketing campaigns will be mainly focused on sustainability, low prices and efficiency. And to make the market as targeted as possible, we advise you to divide departments in regions. So, for example, marketing department focused on Singapore and a separate one focused on Frankfurt.
So in an operational perspective, what has to be done right away? Getting helicopters abroad has to be the first step, starting the planning. Also start developing the app alongside with the users and how to engage them. Establish the destination hotspots and every single aspect of this, so the alliances with the private hotspots, the legal restrictions, the routes that will be done, and of course start expanding the helipad infrastructure.
Yes, and of course, to fulfill all these changes within the organization, we want to hire new employees. We want to hire an application manager, and we want to create new business development departments. Those two will work together and create like really hands-on desires for the market, as Mesa just mentioned, in Frankfurt and Singapore. Besides that, since we want to scale up, we also have to scale up our customer service. And therefore, we want to go for a FAQ, and therefore the users can basically answer their own questions via the Tier 0 support.
Yes, thank you, Niels. This solution also requires some financial situations, of course. So we made some graphs for you to show you what the financials will mean in this solution. I'll ask you to first look at the left graph, please. You see a revenue forecasting here. You see that in the beginning we don't have that much users. That's obvious, of course, because you're a startup, you're a new market, it's very immature. So you have to gain those customers, you have to approach them. And that's why in the first years we don't make enough revenue, but in the later years it will only increase. For the cost, you see, that will also increase. Maybe you think, why will the cost increase? Well, you want to expand, you want to go to other cities, you want to go to other places, and that means you have to build more helicopters, you get more drop zones, and that also provides more costs. But if we look at the profit forecasting, you see that it will take a downturn in the first years, but at around 2026 it will take an upping flow. And how is that possible? Well, that has to go with the autonomous helicopters that will be built, and also with the cost efficiency we will gain with building these specific helicopters.
Yeah, we also made a timeline to give you a short overview of what you should do in the upcoming years. So you see in 2020 and 2021, you should make agreements with governments and communicate with them how the hotspots will be placed and how you're all gonna do it. In 2022, we will build more helicopters and get local pilots to really get started with the operations. And from 2023, we will start engaging customers to make sure that we get a big segment targeted. Maybe we can elaborate on the upcoming years during the Q&A. Yeah, so thank you for your attention, and to all the listeners, are you ready to take off with Compass Consulting? Thank you.
Yes. Thank you for the presentation. I have finance-related questions. Did you calculate how much, for instance, am I going to pay to you for a 10 kilometers ride, let's say?
Yes, we absolutely did. Well, this is more an internally cost structure. We also have a cost structure for the customers, how much it will cost for a specific trip. We calculated that in the first years we will account something like €1.5 per mile. So that means depending on which hotspot you go to, you pay for the price per mile. And in the following years we want to make this price lower, of course, because it will get more interest by other segment groups. So we start with a high price to gain revenue and later on drop it in the years.
Understanding that, I'm wondering, because you wanted to differentiate on price actually, so you want to be very low on price, but at the same time efficient, you know, also very quick from going from one location to the other. Isn't it too good to be true?
Well, it looks like it's too good to be true, but actually it is very feasible because we calculated that with these new transportation systems, it won't cost that much. Of course, we have to spend money, and we see that in the forecasting, and we see that in the financial results. But on the end, we expect that there will be that much users that it will go into the profits.
Well, if I look at your forecasting, what I see that by 2027, you're still generating a huge loss.
Absolutely.
And then, if I have a friend who wants to invest, and I tell him that it takes 15 years to break even, do you think he's going to join the business?
Well, that depends. I mean, there are a lot of examples of businesses that had a lot of losses in the first years, but now are absolutely exploding. It's about seeing the opportunity in this situation. I mean, this is a whole new transportation system, and of course there are risks, but in my opinion, we should look through them and see the possibilities instead of the risks. And I think with this situation, we have a lot of nice possibilities.
We also believe that if we expand from 2025, we start to grow and we go to USA, that the profits will increase more. And also, since it's a sustainability aspect, we believe that cities will, you know, stand in line to get in contact with Volocopter. So we believe that investors will actually be quite enthusiastic about this project, since it's really an upcoming market.
I'll continue with the financial questions. When do you actually think that you will be making a profit for me as an investor, or me as an owner of the company?
Yes, thank you. Of course, that's very important. As a company, you have to make profit. And for now, we forecasted only about 5 to 6 years, and we see that the downturn is coming in 2026, and from there on, it will only rise. When exactly the break-even point will be, we expect that it will be around 12 to 15 years, like our jury said. But that's also based on the autonomous new helicopters that we will produce, and the cost will go lower from helicopter, the cost will go lower from battery, and the cost will go lower for, of course, no pilot. So that means that the revenue or the profit will only increase exponentially.
Well, you segue into my next question, actually, which is, what if the autonomous vehicles are delayed because of technological problems?
Yes, of course that's possible, but then we will just stay on the production of the pilot helicopters, because we don't want to eliminate them. We just want to decrease them when the autonomous helicopters will come to the market.
Does that also mean that my revenue or my profit or the period till I make profit increases? Will it be later?
Yeah, well, we also would advise you to not just hire one supplier, but have several ones, so that if one delays, that you are not independent of one supplier. So if you take that in consideration and you have several suppliers, that problem will not necessarily mean that you will have delayed profit or incomes.
I think I missed something. You all of a sudden decided to go to these cities to start off. I have no clue why, to these cities. What were your criteria, and based on what analysis you decided to go there?
Well, Volocopter currently already has an office in Singapore, and they are German themselves. Singapore and Frankfurt are both cities with relatively high average income. They are dense cities, and especially Singapore is a really packed city, which could really use a new form of transportation, the new limits of transportation, look for them. And because the pilots were already successful in Singapore, we think it's a good city to start. And because of the German local knowledge and the high income in Frankfurt, we think that's a good city to start with, together with Singapore. Because of the risk assessment we mentioned earlier, if you start in one city and that city isn't successful, you still have a backup. We don't think it will happen, but that's a risk assessment. So we have two cities together.
But why have you decided for Singapore and Frankfurt, where you're going to target people of 18 till 25 years old? What's the relationship with that?
Well, as Jeroen stated before, it's also Singapore is a very wealthy country which has a very good infrastructure. Here we have a rate that goes from 1 to 7, 7 being the best quality air infrastructure. Singapore has the best one. So we will focus on these segments, but at the same time we're looking for the least risk possible to start our operations. So
you're not going to target 18 years old in Singapore?
Yes, of course.
You do or you don't?
Yes, we will focus on those two segments. But at the same time, those are not the only variables we're looking for. We're also looking for places where we can find operations that work perfectly. Once there, we will look for these segments.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to continue with the recreational consumer. Can you elaborate why? Because I understand the business part. You want to go maybe to a meeting. On the other hand, you could also argue and say we're now online everywhere, so why should we move? But yeah, why should I, as a 20-year-old, want to take a taxi flying?
We are offering a complete new experience of mobility. So it is not only how efficient it will be, but also we will be making them fly throughout the city just as looking for an Uber. So we're not expecting only to find transportation uses, but also young people with enough that is expecting to find a new experience.
Okay, so it's not about the transport then, it's about flying over your city.
Well, we think that there will mostly be two different customer segments, and the younger segment we are talking about will mostly be tourists. Singapore has a lot of tourists. Frankfurt is also a visited city with many tourists, and we think the younger audience will mostly be people that want to try it out and will be single-time users or only a couple of times, while the older segment, so that will be the business people that will use it more regularly. So that's the division we want to make.
Well, I'm hearing some doubt here among the judges, so that segues me into my next question. Have you thought about any alternatives if it doesn't work out as you expected?
Yeah, definitely. We thought about some alternatives, and the first one being the last mile delivery, since in the case we analyzed that it's also been a possibility that we could change the vehicles to make them suitable for last mile delivery. But we believe more in the air taxi services instead of the last mile delivery services. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so we are providing something extraordinary. It's fast, it's quick, it's good for environment, it's an experience. It has everything that provides all extra values. Why are we trying to outprice competition where we have this much value? So why are we trying to outprice them and making 35 million loss per year?
Well, I think we have to look a little bit to the long term in this situation. Of course, we have a lot of value propositions compared to our competitors, but we won't dive too deep in. We have to be realistic, because in the beginning we are already making profit, and indeed we make also loss. We make revenue, but of course we make loss, 30 million. But that's normal for a tech company that's just starting out.
Sorry, what is the reason that we want to be cheaper, but don't have... Sorry, okay, sorry. My bad.
Thank you all very much.
I don't know. Okay, test. Good. Excellent. So, welcome. Hi. Okay, that's perfect. Welcome to the finals. The next team presenting is Bums Eventum. And you'll get now 10 minutes for the presentation, 10 minutes for the Q&A. And I will be signaling with these signs when there are 5, 3, and 1 minute left. You will also have to stop when the time is up, even if you are not ready. And now I'd like to invite the jury to introduce themselves. And after that, I'll start the time when you start the presentation.
Yeah, so we all know Gerard, Maaike. Kevin is a new face contributing much to today's case competition. Laurent and me. Do you already have your microphone? Then,
We have one microphone?
yeah. Okay, then we wish you the best of luck. And the presentation time starts whenever you start presenting.
Okay, imagine you are in Paris. It's 2025 and you want to see the Eiffel Tower, but the traffic is terrible. Then you realize you can take a flight there and by air taxi, Volo City. Just by yourself, without any pilot. Sounds scary, right? Now we are going to present our solution about what steps Volocopter should take to tackle this problem and to become first and leading company in its industry. We are Bums Eventum and welcome on the board.
Yes, thank you, Sarah, for this introduction. So next up, I'm going to take you a bit back and tell you on what achievements Volocopter already has accomplished in the past years. Because, you all know Volocopter has a big desire to grow. And they already accomplished a couple of things in the last years. They went from 5 to 150 employees. They raised a funding of over $120 million and an estimated company value of over 250 million euros. And last, but I think, we as BEMS think the most important is the government already adjusted that Volocopter is a certified company so that it's safe to fly with their vehicles. A small bottleneck we found is that internal is that the small flight capacity of the current vehicles and the range they currently can fly with. So, how did they accomplish these achievements in the past? Well, that's because of a few things. Firstly, the valuable partnerships they created. Secondly, the internal knowledge they created during the years. And at last, the worldwide approach. So they switched from a German approach to a worldwide approach, and that resulted in a better brand recognition. So this shows that this company is eager to grow and also in the future. Now, Alexandra, can you take us to the outside weather and the current flight conditions, also in other words the current market?
Yeah, thank you, Boaz. So first, let's talk about opportunities. We see there's this huge opportunity in the new industry, the air taxi industry. There is forecasted to be 15.2 billion US dollars in 2030, and as big this opportunity is, threats are also as big. First, there are a lot of regulations that need to be met, and there's the need for new infrastructure. Secondly, the costs currently are very high, and the accessibility is low, but that can be overcome with economies of scale throughout the time. Thirdly, there's increasing competition. There are big players such as NASA, Boeing, Airbus, which all join the fight to become the pioneers of this industry. And lastly, and we think the most important threat, is that people do not feel safe. Currently, they do not trust these vehicles. But, I mean, just imagine, you hop on this aircraft, you fly up in the city by yourself. I mean, I would be scared, I don't know about you. But we have a solution for that. And first, let's recap.
There are three main issues. As I just mentioned, people do not feel safe. Secondly, there's small flight capacity and range. And lastly, there are a lot of regulations that need to be met. And with this in mind, the main challenge Volocopter is facing is which strategy they should take in order to overcome these bottlenecks while still growing sustainably. And now Michiel is going to talk about the solution.
Thanks, Alexandra. So as Alexandra already mentioned, the main goal or the main challenge of Volocopter is to choose the right strategic decision. And we, as Benz Eventum, strongly believe that it should be all about safety. Therefore, we came up with the following goal. And that's all about make people feel safe and familiar with the brand. And with that in mind, we came up with the following solution, which is called the flight map to takeoff. This is a step-by-step approach, and yeah, the step-by-step approach will be in 4 phases. The first phase will be about exploring VoloCity. The second phase will be about fly with VoloCity. The third phase will be about bringing people to the other side safely, and the fourth phase will be about fly further. We will introduce, or we would recommend Volocopter to introduce this plan in 3 major cities: Paris, Los Angeles, and Dubai. So, looking at the first phase. The first phase is all about creating awareness and make people feel safe. And how are we going to do that? We are going to do that with VR experience and make sure that sales representatives or representatives of Volocopter will be present in TV commercials or just TV programs and podcasts. This plan will take 2 years. The first year of the plan will be about gathering all the information and designing, and the second part of the second year of the solution of the phase will be about reaching these goals. So the total cost of this plan will be around 20 million. And now I will give the word back to Sarah because she will talk more about the second phase.
Thank you, Michiel. So our second phase, we are now recognizing the brand and know what it's all about. So in this phase, we are showing and communicating to the world that actually real people fly with VoloCity. So we are going to use brand ambassadors to show the world this thing. Brand ambassadors are they are bringing more information about the product than the traditional advertising. Other things we are using is the YouTube ads and Netflix documentary. You can see the mainly cost there. The goal of this phase is the word of mouth, and this phase will close when people feel safe enough to fly with the VoloCity. And you can measure that, for example, for service. The estimate time of this phase is 1 year, but it may take longer. After 1 year, you can also utilize the volunteer ambassadors. And then Mohammed will tell you about the third phase.
Yes, thank you. So for the third phase, we want to introduce 3 VoloCities within the 3 cities we just mentioned. And what we want to do is we want to have 3 flights per hour and allow for 10 minutes of charging every two times an hour. We also want to have 3 areas of takeoff within the city, and basically these areas should be within a maximum of 8 minutes of each other. This serves to introduce short flights to our customers and also to research the efficiency to scale up the business in the future. Furthermore, we want to target people who are on their vacation on a time crunch to get to reach new destinations, And we want to offer them a sustainable alternative to the usual helicopter tours. We want to do this for at the same price at the normal helicopters charge at the moment, which is around 133 euros per flight. And this actually serves to reach familiarity with our customers through their social media. And this will cost around 20 million euros. And now I will give the word to Alexandra.
So the final phase is all about growing and having global dominance. We want to add 3 more cities, Istanbul, New York, and Sydney, have 15 aircrafts in each city, and the expected revenue of this is 900,000 euros per day. And with this in mind, the timeline is pretty much like a waterfall. And with this in mind, I would like to give the word to Boaz to finish up.
Yeah, so when you look at this timeline, we can assure you that you all will have a safe flight. So fasten your seatbelt and prepare to land on the BAMS solution. Thank you for listening, and we will provide the Q&A.
All right. Thank you for your presentation, BAMS Eventum. Of course, there were some questions that arose us, and I will kick off with my first question, and that is, you chose to target 3 cities at the same time. We are a small company which is already busy with making the velocopters improve and really happen. Why did you took the approach for 3 cities at the same time, considering that this will also bring us 3 times the work for legal, cultural, and other?
Well, that has a lot to do with the more better things that come with scalability. So, for example, if you make 3 velocities, it's a lot cheaper than only producing 3. So that's why we actually wanted to do 9, and also to get a better research, not only in 1 city, but 3 cities at the same time.
And if I may elaborate on that, I also think that we choose 3 cities, spread it around the world, because, of course, Velocopter wants a worldwide approach, and they want to become market leader. So we took a look at, okay, what are the most innovative cities around the world with a big population, but also like good experience on the outside world. So people from other countries look up to these cities. And that's why we choose these 3, so that all around the world people will get to know Velocopter.
Thank you. I'm a bit lost, because you're saying a lot of different things. Also, because what market are you in? Are you in the recreational helicopter market? But then you're saying it's a 1-seater, because I just very quickly saw developing 4-seaters. So if I'm with my family wanting to get a very nice view of LA, I should put my child in one themselves? I'm sorry, I can't.
Okay, I totally understand your concern, and to answer that, first, we are targeting 2 groups. First is the recreational, as you just said, and for that, of course, we want to introduce the 4-seater so you can enjoy the ride with your family. And at the same time, the 1-seater is mostly for air taxis, so just to get over throughout the city in a faster and also sustainable way.
So you first want to cover the air taxi, though, because
yes,
I saw that
yes.
the development of the 4-seater was later.
That's correct.
Okay. Then you also mentioned the VR experience as a way to overcome the hurdle of that I'm okay with flying myself in a helicopter. How? How is that going to happen? How is I'm going to, if I have a VR experience, then all of a sudden I'm going to say, oh, okay, I'll go to the top of the platform and I can do this myself.
Yeah, of course, it's not like directly that you feel safe, but it is more like, okay, it is a process that we want to take. So the first phase is that we want to make sure that people will recognize the brand, and the first part will feel safe. Then after that, the second phase about showing that the flights are actually with pilots are safe, and with the first customers, with the early adapters are safe. And with all those phases, we will make sure, or we will try to make the customers have. We try to make. We want to make sure that that the customers feel safe by showing each phase that will be successful.
And you want to do that within 2 years. So you want to change our habits within 2 years.
So we don't want to change it in 2 years immediately. That's why it's a step-by-step approach. So in the first year, we really want to focus on the early adopters. There are also, always like really interested people in these new ways of transporting. So with this VR experience room, we actually want to make these early adopters fan of our brand, and also provide them with really technical information about the products, but also really be transparent about our products, about your products, sorry, and so that they are sure that they that it's a safe and innovative company, and that we create fans out of them, and if they are the first people within those 2 years to become fan of our brand. And after that, in the second and third phases, we want to reach more like the normal and main public to make them fan of our company. So it's not the first 2 years that we want to make the entire world, because that's just too soon for 2 years.
Just a quick follow-up question. Tesla currently has big problems with autonomous car driving. So how can you be so optimistic that autonomous flying is so easy to get used to? What can we learn from Tesla?
Well, we definitely don't want to say it's easy, but it's a lot more busy on the road than it is in the air. So, and also within a city, there's not that much air traffic, and that's why we believe in the company's product, and we actually think they can manage it within the time they set for themselves.
And just to add on that, so the idea is not that not all fleet has to be autonomous. You still have the options to have a pilot. So for people that don't feel safe to travel on their own, of course, they can choose for the option with the pilot.
Okay, in the beginning you mentioned that there are some legislation, well, not issues, but it's vital to make the plan work. Of course, the municipalities, they will in the end have the vote to either go through or not. My question is, why would a city like Paris, with a very historical center, maybe a conservative country, stick their neck out for a test plan for these autonomous vehicles, which, if it goes wrong, people die, but also the city gets harmed. So what's in it for them?
Well, they will get to be the pioneers of this, so it's a huge advantage just as an image as an innovative city for Paris, because they're also trying to be innovative, even though I agree they're also a very historic city.
Okay, so they will be the first ones. Will that be the message around the table with the mayor? Or what will the message around the table be with, let's say, the mayor of Paris, Dubai, or New York, which also has its history, of course, with, right?
Yeah, but the idea is that also you get to travel fast and you get to avoid traffic jams. And Paris is a very congested city, so this will resolve one of their problems.
We see these problems resolving in 30, 40 years when we have thousands of helicopters flying, not the 10. So what will be the message be for Paris to convince them to be the first mover?
So basically our message would be, whenever we enter your city first, that will probably also mean that you will be the first ones that actually get the profit of the less traffic and those kind of advantages. So I think that's the most important thing, to also underline that we will introduce the first real taxis within that city.
Okay. How much time is that? 2 minutes. Yeah?
I'm going to go to the beginning of your presentation, and you mentioned that what made them so good at this point in time or so far was that they had valuable partners, technical knowledge, and worldwide approach. Can you elaborate a bit more on how my valuable partnerships, which I'm apparently very good at, is utilized in your strategy? Because I don't hear it.
Yeah, relevant question. I think an answer to that is that we need financial resources to make this plan realizable. So we need to create and continue by making these valuable partnerships with companies who see our see future in our company and really deliver the message we delivered you guys today, that we want to be the safest company instead of for autonomous air traveling. And if we convince other companies to invest their money in our plan, yeah, that's one of the most important parts to continue while implementing this strategy.
And also how, for example, Daimler is a very important partner. They can help us with the manufacturing as well. So we can use their operations for that.
Then one last question relating competition. Okay. How are we going to compete with all of the competitors you mentioned?
I think the answer to that question is quite simple. We want to focus on safety, safety first, and that is like the thing that we want to show.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your is it on? Yeah, cool. Thank you very much for the presentation. Please take a seat. Please welcome the fourth team, the I team. They're not there. Welcome CI team to the final. Please start setting up.
This place is
We took care of that, so no worries.
You'll be
I will
given
bring
a
this to
microphone.
you once we did the introduction. You will have one mic to share.
So, team, welcome to the finals. I'm Nicoletta Koch. I'll be the official timekeeper for today. You'll get 10 minutes for the presentation, 10 minutes for the Q&A, and I will signal with these signs when there's 5, 3, and 1 minute left. Please make sure to let me know if you've seen it. You'll have to stop the presentation when the time is up, even if you're not ready yet. And with that, I would like to give the word to the jury so that they can introduce themselves. And afterwards, I'll start the time when you start the presentation. So whenever you're ready. And that's going to be yours.
Oh, thank you.
Boom.
Yeah.
So the jury is composed of many familiar faces, which doesn't need introduction, except for Kevin, who is here today as a former case competitor. He's the only unfamiliar face, and we're happy with him joining the judging panel. Best of luck with your presentation.
Thank you so much. Are you ready? Yeah, okay, so let's start. Good day, everyone. We're the CI team, and today we would like to tell you about our vision for the case of Volocopter startup. But firstly, let me tell you a little story. I'm from Moscow. In our city, we have 15 million people. That's a lot. And due to that, we have huge traffic jams. Trust me, I know what it is like to spend 2 hours trying to get back home in the car. If I had an opportunity to ride an air vehicle to get to my home in 15 minutes, I would love to use it for sure. So we believe that this startup has a big future in big cities. Let's meet the team. You probably already know us, so this is just a soft reminder of who we actually are. We're the CI team. And the first thing that we actually did was the problem thing. We managed to develop, to find two main problems. The first one is accessibility, and the second one is safety. Accessibility means that you cannot place the Voloport in every sport you need, so there are just several in the cities, and you need to get to the Voloport itself, and then you need to transport yourself from the final Voloport to the final destination point. And the safety means that the company wants to provide the best service for the client, and the client just wants to survive the ride, basically. So yeah, there are some other problems, but they're not that major. In terms of core values, as you see, there are plenty of them, and we believe that they are really good developed in the company. It's all about the customer service, mainly because the company tries to provide as fast, as safe, as price low, and a seamless experience for the customers as possible. And this is followed by the emission-free. In 2021, you cannot not be green. And the electrical vehicles, they have zero emission they have zero emissions, so this is extremely good for the company. What is most important and what is interesting is the purchase drivers. Basically, this is what the client wants, and this exactly matches the core values of the company. That means that is extremely good for the business. If the client wants something and the company can offer it, this is how the business works itself. So, but we thought about the problems, about the core values, and about the purchase drivers, and came up with several solutions. Let's see.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Well, as Pavel just mentioned, there are numbers of problems, and in order to overcome this, we came up with a 4-step solution. But first, we also considered various other options, for instance, taxi for tourists, but we didn't recommend this because we wanted to go for a worldwide approach and for the volume of transportations in these larger cities. Well, the first part of the solution is collaborating with e-scooters. Well, e-scooters are helpful for the accessibility of the Volocopters. Volocopters travel from one Voloport to another. And in order to make these accessible, the customer needs to be transported from point A to point B, with point B being the end destination. Well, the e-scooters are a means to get to the end destination. And also, as you can see in the picture, they are well, small and take up little space in the cities. Well, the second part of the solution is the placement of the Voloports. The Voloports should be placed strategically and ideally in the larger cities. And for larger cities, we recommend you for Singapore, Tokyo, and Dubai. Well, and it's important that the customer is able to go from one part of the city to another and avoid traffic jams. Well, the third part of the solution is about raising funds to fund the execution of these solutions. First part is the companies. The Volocopters can be used as a promotion, means to promotion. You can place billboards on there, so you have actually you make two kind of promotions. You raise funds, and you also are able to show the safety of the Volocopters. The second part of raising funds is government. Government is constantly looking for removing traffic jams from in and around the city. And the Volocopters are an ideal means to make use of the space in the air instead of the land, which is already pretty full. Well, and last but definitely not least is the marketing and promotion. In order to promote the Volocopters in the local areas, just the larger cities, we can use demo flights to again show the safety, which is a main purchase driver. Second one, the drone shows. Drone shows is a very high-tech and new way of making promotion, showing a brand, and also, and the last one is the transportation of players during the Olympic Games in Tokyo in 2021. Well, and this is a means to promote Volocopter worldwide. And here we have an impression of how this is going to look.
Yeah, that happens. Yeah, so there we had prepared a little video. For some reason we have some technical issues, so we can just skip it.
We will show it after the presentation.
After the presentation, yeah, but now we need to go further.
Yes. I will tell you more about forecasting. We told you about the collaboration with the e-scooters companies, and we strongly recommend you to do this collaboration on a commission-based contracts. The idea is that Volocopters pays 30% of the customer's bill, so the customers get 30% discount if they use a combination of the Volocopters and the e-scooters. Building on the future, we already told you about the worldwide marketing, these 3 things which are in the movie, but Kimberly mentioned them as well, are part of the RD worldwide advertisement. And raising the capital is needed because of the large of investment of the solution. Yeah. Implementation. What do you have to do tomorrow? First of all, as I already told you, raise the capital. Yeah, raise the capital. This is needed to fund the investment. Thereafter, you have to make contact with the International Olympic Committee, the e-scooters companies, the local governments and the governments. Make them happy, make them feeling enthusiastic, and make them curious about this idea, about Volocopters. After that, use these contacts and search with them to the best locations to locate these Veloports. And after that, as last, go for the worldwide strategy and just start over and over again.
Yes, the next slide we would like to share with you are the risks. We identify a couple of risks that could negatively impact the success of our solution. The first one is not winning the trust of passengers. In order to avoid this, we recommend you to inform the passengers well about your safety measures and regulations. Additionally, we recommend you to promote safety through your social media. The second one is having a flight accident with a passenger. Continuous maintenance will help to avoid this risk. And legal restrictions, we think that this might be the most important one, but at the same time is the most unlikely, since big cities are looking for new methods to improve their public transportation methods. The next slide, please. Yes, so our main problem was if the Volocopters can overcome the barriers in order to succeed in this industry, and the answer is yes. The core values and the purchase drivers correlates very beautiful with each other, and these were the root and the fundamental for our solution. Yeah, so thank you very much. This was our presentation. We are open for questions.
That's awesome. Do you want us to try to show you the video?
I know how, yeah?
Okay, Martin Watson, so why not? Fair enough. Yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them.
Sorry, I thought that the video was longer than the minutes left, so you can show you can show the video. Sorry, I thought it was longer than the time left.
No, it's super small. Now we are ready for your questions.
Thank you. I have a question regarding the finances, because I saw that you have multiple revenue streams, although you didn't bring them to one slide and didn't talk about them at once. But I'm wondering, what is the breakdown? How much money you need from governments or like any type of subsidies? How much is, what actually, I don't know, you bring from investors and so on? And how much money you make also with the advertisement, with the billboards that you have?
Yes. We thought about the investments for the marketing and promotion. And we did a little research. In 2018, the Olympic Games, the advertisement by the Olympic Games cost $64 million. So, and because we already own these velocopters and drones, we estimate that this will be a bit less. So we estimate an investment of 30 million that is needed. And we think we can reach the 30 million with the advertisement and the marketing. No, and the money from the governments. Yeah.
Right, thank you for your presentation. I noticed that the Olympic Games are a big part of your presentation. What if they refuse to cooperate with your marketing strategy?
Yeah, thank you for the question. In the case it is mentioned that there are plenty of demand from the cities, and Olympiad Games is a big show generally for the whole world, and Olympiad Games always try to be as futuristic as possible. For the last years, famous players or just sportsmen are being brought to the stadiums by helicopters, so why would they refuse to use more futuristic way? And if they do, there are other big events in the upcoming periods. For example, in Qatar there would be a World Cup football in 2022, so that is one more opportunity if for some reason Tokyo refuses to cooperate.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
In regards to your choice of cities, you chose 3 cities, Singapore, Tokyo and Dubai, if I'm right. What if one of these cities refused? Do you have backup cities in which you want to expand to?
Well, yes, we thought of these cities because they're also very futuristic, so they're very about modernization. They have a lot of traffic. But the main point about the cities is that they have the traffic problem in the cities. So the problem is that business people or just people need to move from one point in the city to another. So actually Moscow, for instance, as also was mentioned in the example, has major traffic jams. And those are the cities that we need to focus on. And we thought of these 3 cities because, they're futuristic, so probably they are the most interested at this point. But we think that if this is implemented in these cities, and there are already requests from other cities, if it's shown that it can be safe and that it's really a good way of transportation, other cities will follow as well.
Thank you, apparently. I have another question. I have a question about your customers. Could you explain to us how a customer journey looks like? Who is the customer? What is he paying? What is he doing? How does it work with his e-scooters, etc.? Can you just describe what's happening then?
Yes, our customer that we would like to target is business people, businesswomen and businessmen. Why this customer segment? Because they have a more time pressure and they are also no price sensitive. For example, a student have to look for the budget, and the price of the helicopter will be slightly higher than a normal taxi, for example. So we targeted the businessmen and the businesswomen since this will be very helpful for them, especially in these big cities. How will they use the e-steps is in order to come to the heliports and also to can reach their destination when they arrive from A to B.
So you mean everybody should own an e-scooter?
No, it's a partnership with e-scooters companies, such as we have here Felix, but then the bigger cities, and we also did a research that there are companies like this. And as Michelle mentioned before, it will be a commission-based contracts of 30%. So if a customer used the e-steps after they have used the service of helicopter, then they will, then Velocopter will pay the 30% of the use of the whole bundle that they will be offering.
A follow-up question on this.
Yes.
How many flights should be taken place by customers before you break even per copter?
We haven't calculated the break even, but we see this as an alternative of a normal taxi. So we think about just every half hour, is there a new customer for this helicopter, and that will be good. And in addition to that, we use this promotion to reach more revenue and to increase the income.
Well, in addition, in order to make the prices just a little bit higher than the normal taxis, we need to create economies of scale. And this is also why we choose for the larger cities where the transportation or the volume of transportation is much higher. For instance, when we should choose for the backup option, like tourist taxi, then the number of transportation is probably way less than this offer. So we wanted to generate as much transportation as possible to also achieve the economies of scale.
Thank you. You very quickly went over the legal aspect and saying that's not going to be an issue because they want it. What if they do say, I'm sorry, especially given the risk that you mentioned related to, okay, we can have an accident and a helicopter falls down, including passenger?
Yeah, thank you for the question. We understand it. The thing with legal part is that right now there are practically no restrictions or laws for just simple citizen flights of such things, for example, as velocopters. And as it is a huge part of the transportation system in potential, it takes a lot of time, a lot of resources to develop such a law system. And right now, as it said in the case, plenty of cities are actually interested in such a project, and if they have the interest and if they firstly contact the Volocopter company, as they did, we assumed that if they are the first one who are willing to contact the company, they will also pay as much effort as needed to regulate all the legal restrictions, which are obviously needed, of course, because the Volocopters, they cannot move chaotically around the city. That's truth. But the governments and the municipalities, they will do their best to develop all the required laws and restrictions for that, as they want to contact the first.
And in addition, airplanes are more safer than cars or bikes. So in the air it's more safely than use. Forget it.
Thank you for the question.
Until one crashes.
I heard you said that it is slightly higher than a taxi. Is that correct?
Yes.
Why would I not price it at a premium? I transport extremely fast. I provide a beautiful view. Why would I not price it higher to get my profits back faster?
Because one of the main missions of the company is to make it affordable for every single people, and additionally to make it a common public transport, and this will also limit the traffic jam. So this is why we choose to not do it as premium, but not as low neither.
Thank you.
If you have any competition coming up, you have some big boys in there like Uber. What do you do with them?
Big boys as Uber. Do we still have time for that? Yeah.
Now there aren't competitors right now, so that is not a problem. And maybe in the future there are, but on that moment we have more brand awareness than them. So that will be our competitive advantage on that level, and maybe we can, and we offer the option of the e-scooters. So I think that will be our competitive advantage as a sustainable option.
And Also, this company is years ahead the potential rivals, because this company already has all the
Thank you very much for the presentation and the answers you provided. Now, time for deliberation, I guess.
Yeah. So now that all the presentations, the final presentations, are presented towards us, we will now take around half an hour to deliberate on the final scoring. I hear that Gerard could do it in less time. There was scheduled half an hour, but it could be that we are back earlier. I heard 25 minutes. I suggest that if you 10 past 4. I hear 10 past 4. All right. If you want to take a break, go outside for a second, or need to go to the toilet, then this is the moment. And let's say that in 20-25 minutes we will be back with the results. So we'll see you then. And be there. Does this work? Yo, yeah. Good job. Are we complete? Ready? I think we're ready, right? Okay, so welcome to the announcement of the winners of the 2021 Business Pressure Cooker Case Competition. And what a day it was. To be honest, for me, this day was circled round in my agenda because it's the day that we finally get to really have a physical case competition where we can meet each other, where we have physical presentations. And yeah, I felt the competitive vibe today. I saw people cheering, I saw people being disappointed, people being nervous, people complaining to me that they're hungry or they want to go somewhere to eat, or being that disappointed that they want to go home. And for me, that's what all case competition is about. And I must say that I was really proud of the results today, proud of what we saw, especially when you compare this to, like, let's say 2 months ago where we had to do this case on, what was it again? Sir, D-Bamboo. Think of yourself where you were at D-Bamboo and how you made that case compared to the level of presentations that we saw today. Well, you also had the opportunity to watch presentations in the final, seeing what level we as a business pressure cooker could reach. And Gerard, what do you think about the level of BPC this year compared to other years? Is there some difference, or were they better? Or?
You ask me.
Yeah. You as.
What do you think?
I don't know.
Now, I must say that you're a lot better than previous years. So I give you hands for yourself.
And
you know, what I also noticed is that you look different when you're live. A lot of people are a lot smaller than I thought, and a lot of people are thicker than I thought. So that's it.
Can you elaborate on the details, or should we keep it open? On the, no, kidding. No, but I agree. I really thought that the level of today was pretty high, and not only that you may be better or worse than previous years, but one thing is a fact is that there were much more difficult conditions. I mean, up until today, you only had these digital presentations. And then today you have to stand up and present of real people really sitting there, looking you in the eyes, and if you were lucky, even presenting in a big auditorium in front of 50 people. I mean, what's the last time that 50 people physically listened to you? So, yeah, I'm proud of the progress that you all made, and also on the finalists for standing here today. But big applause for yourself, for all of you. And of course, the moment you've all been waiting for is the final ranking, the scoring of today. And we took a little longer. And I feel like we still haven't finished talking. We could talk on for hours and hours and ages to determine who is the winner today. And it is hard, you know. In every presentation we saw some major flaws where we thought, okay, have they really thought this through? In every presentation we saw something creative, something where we were surprised by what they saw. And it's so hard for us to value what is more or what is better or what is worse than other presentations. And yeah, when we entered the room, we all had our different opinion on those things. But we have to align, and as a jury we have to come to one conclusion, and that's the conclusion that I will tell you right now. Starting at 4th place, may I have a huge applause for Team CY. Congratulations on the 4th place and making it to the final, because you really improved compared to yesterday. I don't know what your score was, but so you really improved by winning the round today in your group. So one big applause for CI. Got the wrong list. Then 3rd place. 3rd place. We found the presentation pretty good. Good analysis. Some flaws in the implementation, but never mind. The biggest applause for ACE Solutions in 3rd place. Then 2nd place. Or 1st place. What should we do? Ooh, it's the same. So there's one group, one team of both groups still competing, right? Some from Division A, from Division B. And let's start with 2nd place. The best division, it's so hard to say. It's hard to say, really. We judge it both. And I have no real saying on which one was better or not. We love you all. That's the key takeaway. But I think they want to know who's 2nd and 1st. 1st, 2nd place. A massive applause for Team Compass. And the winner of today, BAMS Eventum. Yeah. Whatever you wish. If you want a speech, Boas, then the floor is yours. No, you can speech. Think of your speech. Well, I do one thing that is also really important. And that's thanking the mother. No, kidding. That is, of course, thanking the volunteers. In the morning, we had 2 volunteers, Rainier and Jolene, who helped in judging and really making this, this event special, to have some external people, some alumni involved here, so you're not seeing all the faces at the same time. We can't thank them right now. What we can do is thank Kevin as alumni for being a part of the case competition. Kevin, huge thanks to you. And Katja, where is she? Is she coming? Yeah, it was Laurent and I, we took initiative in organizing this, and it's so hard, man. We have to comply with COVID rules, we have to comply with people in and out, changing schedules, delays, and we're so lucky to have Katja on our side. She is not here, but we should thank her when she enters. There she is! Hey! This applause is for you, Katja. I don't know if you heard it. Exactly on time. So we have delay all weeks, but once it matters, everything falls back together. Oh, okay. I would like to invite the winners, BAMS Eventum, down to obtain their prize and maybe have a small speech. I don't know. Congratulations. Congratulations. Dank je. Gefeliciteerd. Michel, van harte. Which one? Both?
Ja, ik ga wel speechen. Okay, so I won't say like a winning speech or something because I think we all did our best and yeah, it's not mandatory, but I maybe can say something to the teachers to speak for all the people. I think we are very thankful that we had the opportunity to present today in person because I think we learned a lot from it and yeah, I think even already today we made some improvements with the first and the second presentations. So I think, yeah, I want to thank you for making this feasible.
All right, then this is the end of today, the end of the ceremony, the end of the case competition. Thank you all for your participation, hard work, and we'll see each other next week. Oh no, next week, holiday. I see you in 2 weeks. Celebrate the holiday. Yeah.
Is this on?